Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's process video. And today I'm documenting 3 small photos. They've been printed 2x3. I put 4 of them onto a 4x6 photo mat using the Project Life app, and then printed them out on 4x6 photos. And I'm using Groovy Darlin by Jen Hadfield to document these photos. Now, they're of Amelia and one of her best friends, Caitlin, and they were going bowling. A group of them were going bowling, and the 2 of them were very giddy getting ready at our house because they were going bowling as grannies. So this is their definition of grannies. I don't know how clearly you'll be able to see it in the photos, but it was such a funny day. So it's great to be able to document this for Amelia in her album. So first of all, I wanted to create a little bit of mixed media in the background. So I'm just using my mini brayer, and I've brayed on some antique linen distress oxide, just watered down, and then using a mini brayer. And then I went over the top of that with tea dye, just to get the 2 different tones on the background. In fact, as always, most of it's covered up, but you've seen the process, and I enjoyed creating, and that's the main thing, isn't it, really? So I'm going to mat these, and usually I'm going to mat all 3 onto one mat. I tend to create using individual photos so that I can offset them against one another, but today I just wanted to create one long mat, and I'm going to have the photos going horizontally across towards the top of the layout, and then a nice big cluster at the bottom, and that's how I created the mixed media on the background, because I knew that's what I was going to do. So most of this layout, in fact, is using the ephemera pieces rather than the papers, but I do just create one small photo mat using this lovely green paper, and then I'm just using 4 strips that I had left over from previous projects that I just pulled out before I started filming, and they work perfectly as a mat behind this mat behind the photos. So I'm just going to distress the edges. I love that look. It provides a nice texture, and it also provides a barrier between the other layers behind the photo. Because of that white edge, it makes it more distinct, the different layers. So here I am just starting to build up that bottom right hand cluster. I've got a piece that says notes because I want to be able to journal on this layout. That green one says, not every day is good, but there is good in every day, because it didn't go exactly according to plan, but they still had a lovely day. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. And then I'm going to add some bits to this top cluster. I did have a little play with the ephemera before I started filming, just a very quick play. So I had an idea of some of the bits I wanted to use that are in the bottom tray, and then I put some more in the top tray that I thought I might want to use as well. So I wanted to add this tag. I wanted to add tags to both of the clusters because I want to bring in some twine to create a different texture and a flow across the page. And I chose this title, which is on, it's washi tape, so it's on a backing, and it says "You are made of magic." I want to keep it on the backing because I don't want the mixed media to show through behind that. I want it to be a crisp image. So that's what I've got so far. These are those strips that I mentioned. Like I say, I haven't pre-cut these. They were left over from previous layouts. If you've watched me for a while, you know that I really enjoy creating layouts using strips of paper. So these must have been cut off a previous piece, but I just thought they would be perfect to layer behind these photos because I've got that tag to the left and the little ticket. I didn't need these layers to go all the way across, so I'm just tucking them behind on the right hand side so it looks like they go all the way across. It doesn't matter that they finish halfway, so I can bring them out to the right any length that I like. So there's the navy, and then there's just that lovely green with the white daisies, and then that's that cluster more or less finished. So I just wanted to tuck the navy behind that green piece, and then it fell off, so I'm just having to readjust everything here. So just making sure that I press that piece down once I've got it on. There we go. So there's that top cluster sorted. I've got this piece that says "Hello Sunshine," and I really wanted to add that as a banner underneath the photos, but couldn't work out how to do it, and then decided to mat it onto some white cardstock just so that it didn't, because it's vellum, it was fighting with all the other different tones behind it because it's semi see-through. So just matting it onto this white card gives it a solid background so that it really shines, and it's foiled with like a coppery foiling, so it looks really pretty. So there's that. And then I also had this wood piece from JD3D Print, and it says adorable, and the girls really were adorable, so I just thought that would work nicely there in that corner. So now turning my attention to this cluster, so I'm just going to glue everything down as you see it. Probably should have cut this out really rather than showing, I am sorry. You'll see my blunders though, so it's not all lost. So I'm just trying to glue it together as one lump because I do want to add a little bit more mixed media to the background. So just trying to stick it together as a single piece, and that's where I noticed that I've added the glue to the left hand side rather than the right hand side of that card. So I just have to roll that up and then stick it down correctly. Luckily ATG is very forgiving on this super smooth cardstock, so it just peels back up again. So just creating a nice cluster with these florals. Again, that big one is on a backing. It's like a vellum sticker, so I just keep it on the backing because I wanted the solid look rather than peeling it off and having the mixed media showing through because it's semi-translucent. So just working out exactly how I want to position all of this. And then I'm going to come in first of all with a script stamp and just using a small section of it without a block. I'm just stamping that with the tea dye all over these two sections. Most of it is covered up again, but some of it does show. And then when I've done that and I bring the photos back in, I want more. I want more layers. So I'm going to come in with a stencil. I think this is a Vicky Bootin stencil. I couldn't be certain, but it's like swirly florals, and I just thought that would be really nice for photos of grannies. So just adding small areas, again in the tea dye, as a layer over the rest of the mixed media. And it's just going to peek out around the edges. You can't really tell that it's floral swirls when it's all down, but it just looks really pretty, and the colour's gorgeous with this collection. Definitely use tea dye if you're using Groovy Darlin from Jen Hadfield. It works a treat. So there are the two areas now finished with mixed media, so I can start gluing everything down. So I'll start with this piece. I'm just going to blend what's left on the brush in that little white area between the two. You can barely see it, but it just sort of joins the two areas together. Oh, this is one last bit that I wanted to add. I came in with my chipped sapphire because I've got some navy blue on this layout. I just wanted a tiny nod to that navy, so I'm just coming in with some splatters of chipped sapphire. So I've just watered it down and then adding those to the background. So now that's dry, I'm going to pop the photos back on. Use my T-square ruler just to check that everything's straight and get that stuck down. So plenty of ATG on the back because of all that mixed media behind it. I just want to make sure that it does stick well to that cardstock. So using the T-square for guidance, I can get that stuck down, and then I'll do the same with this bottom piece. And you can see I've actually positioned them slightly differently. I've moved this section in a little bit because I wanted to show off that mixed media to the right. So now the title, and I'm just going to tuck it under that banner and then have the other bits overlapping at the right hand side over the photo, or the photo mats I should say. So that's the title down. I've got a couple of bits that I wanted to add to the left-hand side of the title just to fill out that blank space. So I've got one of the little suede hearts from Hey Little Magpie from our Bits and Pieces collection, one of the florals again from the Bits and Pieces, and some JD3D wood chevrons, the mini wood chevrons. And that works really nicely just to fill out that title. And then just working on that bottom section now. And I wanted to add a tangle of thread behind that flare badge. So I'm just cutting off some navy, again a nod to the navy, some navy thread, and just teasing that out a little bit and putting it behind that flare badge. So just using my Nouveau Deluxe adhesive to get that stuck down, plenty of glue on the flare just to make sure it sticks and stays in place. And a little dot on the end of the thread. And then I've got that lovely butterfly that's going to go up nice and colourful at the top there. And that sort of brings all the colours together. So some wax twine through this thread, this tag, and then I shall do the same through the top tag, just leaving it to flow down the page. I realised I hadn't stuck these flowers down, so I'm just getting those stuck down before I trail that thread through, and I'm just going to add a dot of glue to hold it in place halfway down. And I have to use the lid of the glue to hold that in place, otherwise it keeps popping up. So the same at the top, the same thread, it's this lovely green, which works really nicely with the colours in this collection. And I'm going to thread on this little plastic smiley face. We've got these in the Bits and Pieces collection as well from Hey Little Magpie. So just adding that here and then letting the thread trail down and just adding a nice big blob of glue behind it to hold it in place. So gluing these bits down next to the title, I haven't done that. I'm very good at laying things out and then not actually committing and sticking them down. So then I have to go round and work out what has and hasn't been stuck. So I'll just roughly stick these chevrons on and then bring my T-square in to straighten them up. That's the beauty of wet glue. You've got a little bit of time for some wiggle room. Just trimming off the excess on that thread. I decided to leave the longer piece as was. And then a little paper clip from my stash just added to that card, just for interest. And then I've got these lovely black sequins that I'm just going to dot about. I thought about using my Nuvo crystal drops in black, but then remembered these sequins and thought they would be nice as an alternative. So just adding some dots of glue and then adding those sequins as I go. So I'm adding them almost, it is in a diagonal really, down the page from top left to bottom right. And I'm adding plenty to this corner, but I do actually pull some of those up shortly because I wanted to add another floral die cut. You can see I've got them everywhere, look, stuck to my finger. And I'm just adding to create balance really, so I find it easier just to add a few and then look and see where else I need to add them. Couple more here. And I think it's at this point that I see that I want to add something in that bottom right hand corner. First of all, the journaling, so I'm just filling up that notes paper. They both got dressed up. They were so excited, and then when they got to the bowling alley, some of their friends hadn't dressed up because they were going to work afterwards, and then the bowling alley was full anyway, so they couldn't actually bowl. It was such a shame, but they had fun anyway, and it was great seeing them dressed up and enjoying themselves. So I've added that tab to the top above the photos. I haven't got the date, so I need to look that up. I've just realised I still haven't done that, so I will do that once I finish filming. I'm still messing with those sequins. And that's it. I hope this has provided some inspiration for you. I love this collection. I've still got more to come with it. Thanks again. I'll see you soon. Bye.